Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am.
Nino Brown Boxing, and I'm back in the building. Shout out to the LDBC. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. So on boxing, it's been a lot of talk about the fans not being respected, the fans not being appreciated. By that, I mean fans are not getting the fights that they want. And when when we're verbal about our disgust of not getting the fights that we want, the responses from fighters, trainers, promoters, managers, it seems to be, well, it has to make business sense, and it's about the business. Now, last time I checked, and nearly any other business, especially when the provider of the service or the provider of a product can make such a quick turnaround, the consumer, they get what they want. Now, for example, like for cars, if I have a Jeep Wrangler. So if Jeep decided they wanted to they released their 2018 JL models, and if a person says, well, damn, Jeep, I want this feature, I want that feature, it's not expected for Jeep in the next 4 months to come out with a brand new model upgrading the previous model they just had earlier that year. It's not expected. It's not expected for a large company like, something outside of a car. It's not expected for Apple to add like a brand new feature, and that being hardware, because that takes time. They have to redesign the entire model. But a company as big as Apple, multi-billion-dollar company, a company that has a higher net worth than any boxer, than any promoter, any trainer, has the ability to give their consumers what they want when it comes to the updates. See, when a consumer talks about, oh, I want this feature, why didn't you do it that way? And it's a fix that could be done within a few months, it gets done. It gets done because it makes business sense. It makes business sense simply because the consumers are the people that keep you in business. They're a fan of your product, they're a fan of your service, and they consume what you're giving out. Now, how this relates back to boxing is simple. When you say that you believe your fighter is the best, when you say you as a fighter believe you are the best. Now, I understand you have the fighter, you have managers, and you have promoters. Now, typically a promoter's agenda is a lot different from a manager's agenda or a fighter's agenda. I understand that. But speaking more so from a managerial perspective and the fighter's perspective, especially the fighter, because they can call for the fight that they truly want. I've seen it done over and over again. I've seen fighters that duck and dodge certain fighters. They won't say anything, but they'll become extremely verbal about a fight that they want. Now, how all of this connect is the talks when it comes from all of these different positions, all these different figures in boxing. They talk down on the fans. They say it don't make business sense. They say you're a dumb fan. You don't know what you're talking about. You never lace up a pair of gloves in your life. But the key factor they seem to forget is you wouldn't be where you are if it wasn't for the fans. If people weren't buying the tickets, coming to see you fight, if people weren't tuning in and your ratings weren't high, those checks would be non-existent. A lot of people that take the time out of their day, whether it's their full-time job, their part-time job, or it's a hobby, to go interview these fighters, these camps, these trainers, these promoters, whatever the case it may be. the heat needs to start being put on these guys when it comes to disrespecting the fans. Now you have some fans, they bend over and take it. They have these hidden agendas to me that doesn't make sense at all, to the point where they're willing to compromise their status of a consumer and conform to what these individuals want them to conform to, which makes no sense, but to each his own. My overall point with this video is a lot of these fighters need to be reminded why they are where they are. The fans want to be entertained. The fans want the best. Most of the fans want the best to fight the best. So coming out trying to shit on the fans because you're not moving how your consumer wants you to move, but you still continue want to make money, and you had the audacity to talk about how much money that they're not getting. Last I checked, it's millions of boxing fans, hardcore and casual. Every boxing fan isn't a guy that works at McDonald's and lives in his mom's basement. You have boxing fans that are unemployed, all the way to boxing fans that own their own companies. Just because they're not mainstream, just because you don't know about it, doesn't mean anything. But even if, let's just say hypothetically, all boxing fans were average guys that made $52,000 a year, it doesn't change the fact that they're consumers, because most people that have cell phones, they consume Apple products. They make around about $52,000 a year. I don't see Apple shitting on their consumers. To me, you talk about what makes business sense. It's never made business sense to shit on your consumers. It's never made business sense to tell the consumer they don't know what they want and they don't know what they're talking about. Now, I want to go deeper into that. Now, if it was a welterweight, and it was a bunch of boxing fans saying, we want him to fight Deontay Wilder. I get it. That's not the case. We have guys in the same division with the same advisor, same managerial team, or same promoters, ranked in the same sanctioning bodies, and they're not fighting. The fans are on point when it comes to this guy's in your weight class. You don't have a date. He doesn't have a date, but you guys are silent. But you said the fans don't know what they want. They don't know what they're talking about. The fans ignore. We know exactly what we want. And we want the best to fight the best. All the stupidity and all the politics to be put aside and give us what we want. Because ultimately, if you're as good as you say you are, that's how you're going to maximize your dollar. You got fighters out here like Errol Spence. You got fighters out here like the Charlos. You got guys like Deontay Wilder. They carry themselves in the manner of, I believe I'm the best. Your guy can't beat me. And I'm going to take the tough fight. And I'm going to show you that I can get the job done. And I'm going to maximize my profit. See, if Errol Spence, within the last 3 years, would have moved in a manner where he was extremely cautious, he wouldn't have went over to the UK and fought Kell Brook. And then he wouldn't have became the IBF champion. And he wouldn't be in the position that he is in right now, delivering the Errol Spence effect to all these punk-ass other welterweights. As simple as that. A guy like Deontay Wilder, he was willing to fight a guy that was being ducked and dodged across the division in Luis Ortiz. He gave the fans what the fans wanted. The best fighting the best. Wilder could have said, Luis Ortiz isn't ranked by my sanctioning body. Luis Ortiz, who has he fought? Wilder could have gave all of these excuses, but he didn't. He went in there, he had a tough fight, he handled his business, and he knocked Luis Ortiz the fuck out. It was that simple. This is what we want from all fighters. So Anthony Joshua, Sean Porter, Heath Thurman, whoever the case may be, whoever falls into this category from heavyweight all the way down to minimum weight. Fight tough fights Get the fans what we want, and you will be rewarded. People think just because they take multiple L's, their career is over. Look at Austin Trout. Austin Trout is in tough fight after tough fight, and he keeps getting opportunities. Why? Because he puts himself out there. Now, some people may say Austin Trout doesn't deserve those opportunities, and I disagree 100%. He's a great fighter. He puts on entertaining fights. He's always in the fight. It's not like he's been steamrolled. He's been stopped once in his career. Shit, Austin Trout has had more championship fights than Sean Porter. So it's just doesn't make sense to me why these guys ducking and dodging. You got guys like Adrian Broner. It doesn't make business sense. Last time I checked, Adrian Broner lost to Sean Porter. Adrian Broner lost to Mikey Garcia. Adrian Broner lost to Marcos Maidana. And he is still like one of the highest paid welterweights. But I digress. My overall point, once again, don't disrespect the boxing fans. Don't disrespect the YouTubers on boxing. We're the one that's carrying this sport. This isn't the mainstream sport. This isn't the NFL. It's not the NBA. The boxing fans are more valuable to boxing than the fans are valuable to in the NFL, for the simple fact it's less of us, but the amount of support that we have for these boxers and for these fighters is on another level. Hardcore boxing fans contribute so much to the sport. I think these guys they really don't have a great understanding on how important these hardcore boxing fans are. But the truth is always exposed, and when you have guys that are in this position right now talking down on the fans, when they fall from grace and the fans aren't there to pick them back up, and they're complaining in interviews, chasing down money fights, trying to scratch and claw because they're desperate to get on some guys on the card, we're going to remember what they said about us a few years ago. But you may have another guy that's always loyal to the fans, respectful of the fans, and give the fans a fight they want to see. They can lose multiple fights, but they'll continue to be relevant in the sport because the hardcore boxing fans are the ones that are going to keep them relevant. It's Nino Brown Boxing. Shout out to the LDBC, and I'm out.